Hi, everyone. Good day, good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Outreachy Coffee Chat. And today, this is our coffee chat for the year 2025. So it's amazing. And not just that, we are having special people today as our guests. These folks that are joining us today, they are like, they are just like, we have two guests joining us today, and they are one of the strong pillars of Outreachy, because we all know that without our mentors and our community coordinator, there is no Outreachy. So before that, thank you so much for joining us. If you have any project contributors or any other open source folks that you want to share this live video with, please do share with them. And if you're just coming across this channel for the first time, this is the Outreachy Internship YouTube channel. And the Outreachy program is a paid internship opportunity, a global paid internship opportunity, and it's open to everyone. We have two cohorts in a year. We always have the May cohort and the December cohort. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce myself. Yes, I'm Omotala Eunice Omotayo, and I'm one of the Outreachy organizer where I work as the community manager. So I want to see chats from people coming online. Thank you so much for joining us and for coming that early. So I'm just going to add our guests to the stage now. Hi, Deb. Hi, Federico. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. It's really good to have you today. Hi, how are you doing? How is the day going over there? Is it morning, afternoon? Is it morning or afternoon on your end?
Say for me, it's definitely morning, but it's fine. So it's nice. It's going to
Thank
be a
you.
sunny day today. No snow today. I'm good.
Thank you so much for
Also morning
joining.
for me, it's like 9:05 a.m. for me, and yeah, sun's out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us really early. We really appreciate this. And just as we always mentioned, Outreachy is open to everyone. Outreachy provide internship opportunity in open source and open science, and especially for people who are subject to systemic bias and impacted by underrepresentation in their technical industry, in the technical industry of the country they are living in. Anybody can apply to Outreachy. And yes, today we have our community coordinator, Deb, and we have Federico, who is also our mentor. So I'm going to give them the privilege to introduce themselves. They're going to tell us more about them as an individual and also tell them about their projects. They're going to tell us more about their projects and anything about them in summary. So I'm going to start with Deb. Hi, Deb.
Hey there. So my name is Deb Tankersley. I've been at the Wikimedia Foundation for just over 9 years at this point. And I know we've been doing Outreachy since I think 2013. So not necessarily being specifically involved, but we've got a huge amount of people here still with the foundation that help out with Outreachy and just really love doing it. This particular round, we've got 6 different participants. So 6 different, very different projects, which is fantastic. And it's what I find really cool is just being able to just see the excitement on everyone's face of just like, oh, it's because it's not just learning Python. It's not just learning, the skills that they're enhancing already that they already have, but it's also being part of the Wikimedia movement, which is, we want knowledge about everything to be free and available to everybody across the world. And so that drives a lot of engagement and people that are really wanting to do good things. And that's what myself as a community coordinator love to do is I love to be able to bring people into our community to be like, okay, here's the actual coding of what our projects do and what Wikipedia does. And it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. And Wikimedia is one of the amazing community that we have participating in Outreachy. And just like our guest mentioned, Wikimedia has been with Outreachy for a very long time. Thank you so much for your impact. Thank you so much for adding a lot of value to the program. We appreciate you. Okay, so let's move on to our second guest. Hi, Federico.
Hi, thanks for inviting me here. I'm Federico Mena. I've been part of the GNOME Project since the beginning, and I've been an Outreachy mentor several times now, even back then before it was called Outreachy, when it was called the GNOME Women's Summer Outreach Program. And yeah, it's been great. We have gotten great people from this program, so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that intro. And also, GNOME is one of the amazing communities we have at Outreachy. Thank you so much for all you do. We really appreciate you. For those that are just joining us again, you might be wondering which chat is this. So this is our coffee chat with our awesome mentors and community coordinators. Just for context sake, Outreachy has or welcome participating community, mentoring community, and we welcome different type of community, open source communities, open science communities, and even non-profit organizations. Community can come up with different projects, and for open source, there are varieties of projects that they can come up with, and also for open science, research, open data science, open collaboration, and so on and so forth. And we welcome other non-profit type as well. And we are really happy because without these communities, because these communities come up with projects that our interns work on. So without these communities, Outreachy will not be where we are today. So today, we do not only want to learn about these communities, different communities and the Wikimedia community joining us today. We want to hear from those people that are behind the scene, the mentors, the community coordinator. And I think this is the first time we're actually having a community coordinator on this coffee chat. So it's going to be really nice because we are going to be learning from the community coordinators perspective. So I'll start with Federico. Please tell us more about the GNOME community and most especially the projects you have with Outreachy right now. I know you mentioned that you've participated in the Outreachy program more than once. So you can just give us you can choose any project to explain the project, but tell us a summary about your community and any project, especially the one that is currently ongoing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, GNOME is a really old project. It started in 1996 and it got publicly announced in 1997. And since back in the early 2000s, it has been the default desktop environment for many Linux distributions. So if you use Linux at all, you pretty much have seen GNOME somewhere along the line. I think we have always been a friendly community. Our other project founder, Miguel de Casa, he's a great person. He always was very friendly, very welcoming. And he taught me a lot about the importance of being like that with the people that enter the project, You don't just want to use people as worker bees writing code for you, but rather you want to welcome them, form a community, let them learn, have you learn yourself from them. So it's been pretty good. We set up a code of conduct in 2017, I think. We hired the services of Otter Technology to write our code of conduct with us. So we have that now. It's unfortunate that we didn't have a real one before that, but that was kind of what happened back then. As far as mentoring and internships, GNOME started participating in the Google Summer of Code basically since the beginning of Summer of Code. And I don't remember exactly when the Summer Outreach Program for Women started. One of the GNOME participants, Marina Shurakinskaya, started it as a way to bring more women into GNOME, because Of course, as with all free software and open source, the gender ratio was really terrible. So Marina had the idea of starting the GNOME Women's Summer Outreach Program. We got some really good applicants. My first intern back then was a woman named Cecilia from Spain. She was working on the Evolution groupware suite. She did some fantastic optimizations there. And this was way back, in the 2000s. And a couple of years after that, the Summer Outreach program turned into Outreachy. It branched off of the GNOME Foundation to be its own thing. And it's great. We've always been really happy to participate there. I've been mentoring, not every year, but maybe once every couple of years. It's been great. These days, I maintain one of the libraries in the GNOME project. It's called LibRSVG. It takes care of drawing SVG images, converting them to pixels so that they can be displayed on the screen. So all the icons you see on your GNOME desktop are drawn by that code. And I've gotten a few interns to work on that library, and they've done some great work. A few years ago, Violet Holland from Kansas, and China, they now live in Berlin. They did an internship for Outreachy on, I think, support for SVG2 features. Then the next year, I think Shinigami from India did the work for having a performance tracking framework for the library. And currently in this December round, I have an intern from Nigeria, Adetoye Anointing. He's doing support for the bidirectional text layout algorithm in SVG2. So it's great. It's really great.
Thank you so much, Federico, for taking us back to the memory lane. Outreachy started really in the year 2010, and the name then was Outreach Program for Women. Yes, the name was changed in 2015 to Outreachy. And yes, thank you so much for highlighting the project, especially stating the different countries that the interns you've been able to work with actually come from. This is also another proof that Outreachy is not just for a specific location, but everywhere globally. Okay, so now let's move to Deb. Hi, Deb. I really am interested in this question because not just are you coming from Wikimedia, but also you're coming as the community coordinator. A lot of interns, a lot of persons that have heard about Outreachy on socials really might not even understand what a community coordinator does. Now that they have you here, we want to educate people on what being a community coordinator with the Outreachy internship program from Wikimedia actually means.
Yeah, thanks. So it is a little bit different and I guess a little bit odd sometimes. So the community coordinator basically makes sure that we're good with the Outreachy program itself, making sure that we have things like budget to have interns, and it's also then talking to the mentors that have either had projects before that we've worked on. Do they want to do it again for this year? Did they finish a project from the last round type of thing? Do they want to do more? Do they want to do something different? The community outreach also person is the kind of the front line with anyone who has questions. So when this particular round started, when the interns, the prospective interns were first learning about Outreachy and learning all this and saying, okay, cool, this sounds like a really neat project, and starting to figure out what they wanted to do. Do they want to be involved in it? We have several Zulip channels that we have open for each of the Outreachy rounds, and then Google's remote code as well. But it's also where it's a place for people can come and talk and just say, hey, I've got this thing over here. Where do I put this in GitHub? That type of thing. And so it could also be just, how do I get started? I've heard about Outreachy. I know about Wikipedia. I don't know about Wikimedia because most people don't realize that Wikimedia is actually the back end. It's the foundation that runs Wikipedia. And again, Wikipedia has been around since 2001. I think we're now 24 years old. I think we're still top 10 of most sites visited from the world, type of thing. So people know Wikipedia and they know that name, but they don't necessarily know Wikimedia, the foundation behind it. But anyway, so they'll actually come to our Zulip chat domain, I guess, and ask us all sorts of questions. How do I get started? And sometimes they'll be like, okay, I know all these great coding languages, but where do I actually get started? And so that's my job to actually go in there and say, okay, so you haven't been selected yet for a particular project. It's still early days, but you can go here, you can go here, you can here, read this type of thing. And then it's also making sure that the interns and the mentors, once they actually get started and they're selected and the project is off and running, that they are able to communicate easily and well. So if there's something going on with a mentor or an intern where, life events happen, where they need to take a break, I'm that coordinator, not only between them, but them and the Outreachy program itself. Trying to think of all the other things that I wanted to talk about, but it's basically making sure things happen. So like next week, we have our midterm check-in for all the interns. So all 6 of them should be there. And we've invited some mentors as well, just to be like, how's it going? What can we do better for you? And this particular round was over the holidays. And so a couple of them took, a couple of weeks off because they should, to be with their family. But now they're catching up. And so one of the things that we want our interns to do is just do a weekly check-in. So it's a weekly update basically. So we have a bug tracking system called Fabricator, which is free and open source, that we want all of the interns to actually go in there and say, I learned about this, I finished this, I merged this patch, whatever they actually did. And it's a great way for us to be knowing what's actually happening with the intern. I've had several interns reach out to me in prior rounds where just like, life happens, right? Or they're in an area that was struck by natural disaster and they literally just do not have internet, they don't have power. And I try to help them with it and to make sure that they know real life comes first. Outreachy will be second type of thing. But to give them that, that confirmation that it's okay. There's nothing you can do with the natural disaster. It happens, it's fine. And some of the countries that we actually have our interns with are Bangladesh, Cameroon, Nigeria, Kenya, India. So it literally just almost all over around the world. So, and it's just really fun and interesting to talk to people with varying degrees of experience and knowledge and watch them just blossom. And that's one of the things that the mentors see every week when they talk to them. But I see kind of a little bit from the distance. And then it's kind of like, wow, you really did a lot. Like you started this program or this project that was, good. And it's something that I know the intern was probably stressed about. And here you are doing amazing things. And then you can take that and continue on with your coding with the Wikimedia code itself, MediaWiki. Or you can just be like, this is great. This has really helped me jumpstart my next career of where I want to go next. And so it's kind of it sounds stupid, I'm sure, but kind of like a parental figure to be like, it's okay. Let's work on this together. Let's get through this. What are the things that I can help you with? And then just celebrating their achievements when it's all over in another 2 months, I guess, or a month and a half or so from now. So, but just giving them, good job. You're doing great. I mean, you took a hard task and you did it. So.
really can resonate so much with your role being a community coordinator, because sometimes when I explain my role as a community manager, or what I'm really passionate about in the role is the intersection of technology and people. And in your case now, in free and open source ecosystem, I love when you mentioned that it's really about what do we want to do? How can we be part of it? How are people that are contributing? How are they doing it? How can we better support them? And this is also like a lesson to participants, applicants, that hopefully they will become contributors. That for the Outreachy program, you are not just coming in to just pick a project and contribute. The community coordinators, the mentors, they see you, they appreciate you, and they want you to understand that. They want you to understand that your contributions actually means a lot to the project, to the community, and that they value you and your contribution as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have some other interesting questions for you that I want to like learn or get like a point of it from your perspective. So we'll come back to you. Let me go back to Federico now. Federico, being a mentor, yes, GNOME Foundation, GNOME community has been part of Outreachy for a long period of time. For you as a person, do you have like prior experience mentoring? It might be outside of Outreachy, but we want to know, or do you just start mentoring through the Outreachy program?
Well, the only online mentoring I have done is really for Outreachy and Summer of Code. However, my secret trick is that my wife is a school teacher. So we often talk about, how her students are doing, what strategies she likes to use. And I've learned so much from her about how to teach and coach people and how to figure out whether people are learning, understanding, having trouble, that sort of thing. So that's been really, really, really helpful, and I really appreciate that she takes the time to show me that. I have had a couple of informal mentees in person, like the children of a couple of friends, and I started to teach them programming some years ago. One of them he's a grown-up now, so he's in college studying computer science, doing great. So there's been opportunities to do this, and yeah, basically it's all been either online or with very close friends. That said, I learned a lot myself from the free software community or the open source community, like just by being there and seeing what people do and how they communicate with each other, the sort of documentation they write, the sort of comments they leave in the code. You learn to see, oh, this person was really trying to write something with the intent of helping other people rather than just being, perfunctorily, this function does that, this function does that, but rather really teaching you how to use the thing and how it's supposed to work, or the general philosophy behind the project. So that's been good to see and learn from it.
Awesome. I picked something from what this case study you used, or the scenario you mentioned about your wife being your informal mentee. And that is like a lesson to a lot of folks out there who want to be a mentor, especially for the Outreachy program, right? You don't need like an official mentoring experience. Our guest just mentioned how it's not like an official online mentoring experience, but you can see that now they have an experienced mentor through the Outreachy program. And this is a wake-up call to a lot of folks out there who are still doubting maybe they should go on to become a mentor for their open source or open science community, or any free and open source community that they are part of. So this is a wake-up call that you don't need that official mentoring experience. So I'm still going to ask you, Federico, how you actually now you've mentioned that you don't have like a formalized mentoring experience. So how did you or why did you decide to be a mentor? Like, how did you get in? Who did you speak with? How did you come up with the project? How did it start? Can you explain that?
Is it fair to say that I have a lot of opinions on how software should be written, and I wanted to?
Maybe I should help a bit. And I'm asking this. I don't know if Deb will answer that later as well. I'm asking this because I've gotten a lot of questions from folks who say, I have the skills, I can do this, I am contributing to this community, but having this knowledge, how do I give back to the community by being a mentor? What is that first step that I'm supposed to take? As for our case now, what is that first step I'm supposed to take to be a mentor for the Outreachy program? So maybe you can share your own experience to answer that question.
So I think the way I want to answer this question is by telling you the kinds of projects I have mentored where I felt that the mentoring experience was really good versus the ones where it wasn't. And I've discovered that sometimes the project I'm working on at the time needs something to be done, right? So, however, it works better for me when that thing that needs to be done is something that I could do myself if I, gave myself the time to do it. But rather, I think I understand the problem well enough that I can just show somebody else through implementing that. Not as somebody you hire to fix your water heater or something, but rather as someone with whom you work together to do the thing. So it has worked well for me when I tell my interns, I'm gonna digest. For example, right now I'm working on this SVG file format processor thing, right? And the official specifications for SVG and CSS are really, really detailed, really hard to read and understand. You need a lot of experience with web browsers and stuff to understand them. So I take the job of reading those myself, understanding them, and translating them to something shorter, more understandable for somebody who has just gotten into this whole development space, right? So I'm the thing I'm doing now with my intern is to tell him, here's some preliminary material, not reading the spec, but here's some videos about fonts and text layout and right to left and left to right languages, how they work. So go look at those so that you have an idea of how text layout works in computers. And now we're going to implement this thing step by step. So I'm writing tests, and my intern has to write the implementation to make those tests pass. So that's nice because it lets me have a way of writing the end state of the code via the tests, while my intern does the real work of implementing that. So it gives us like a nice back and forth. And this has been working really well compared to another time I had an intern and I wanted them to write a performance tracking framework for the library I'm working on. But I didn't realize back then that I was really treating it as a product that I wanted somebody else to write for me, because I knew I wanted the performance tracking to be done, but this was more about storing the performance metrics, displaying them, keeping them around. And I didn't realize that I was treating my intern as a worker implementing a product that I can just use without thinking about it later. So that didn't work so well. My intern did a good job. The code is there, it works, but I don't feel like I really gave them the attention they deserved, and I feel bad about that. So I'm trying to do a better job. Then some many years ago, I got this complete rock star back when we were working on the one laptop per child infrastructure. So they had to write a simulator for the one laptop per child, the cheap laptop. It had a very particular kind of display. It was not a standard RGB display, so it had some particularities to it. So they had to write a simulator to see how a normal user interface would look on that thing, because it couldn't deal very well with very fine lines or very small font sizes, things like that. And my intern, she completely understood image processing, the way the pixel grid works, and non-square pixel grids, and just a complete rock star, right? So I was just more like guiding them in how his implementation would be most useful to the people who were going to use it in the end. And he completely took care of doing the research and the math and everything. So that sometimes you get people like that, and it's fantastic. But most of the time, I think you really need to first take the time to see how much your intern knows about the subject at hand. Because sometimes they get an internship, but what they are working on is not really their passion in terms of technical work. And it's fine. I mean, you can just go and learn a new thing and do it. But it helps a lot if you take the time to let your intern show you how much they already know, how much they're interested, or finding a way to get them interested in the thing you're doing. So this time around, I showed my intern some talks on YouTube and other places with some old talks about text layout, how it's done in computers in general, how it's done in GNOME in particular, the libraries we will use, the infrastructure we use. Some general documents about fonts, languages, different writing systems across the world. So just to get a big general idea of the thing, and we've been exploring that together. And I think I want to show people, or rather, it's very gratifying to me to see that people can dive into a hard problem, and just with some nice coaching, they can just get through it. And later, that's very good for their resume or for getting a job, when companies definitely pay attention to how interns do, and if you can show them that you were an intern and you solved a hard problem in an existing code base that everyone already uses, it's like, oh yeah, this person can write code for the real world, and that's very gratifying to see that you just take a couple of months of your time to mentor someone, and they can basically get their first job or second job, and then they can start their career there. It's very good. It's very nice to see.
Awesome. Thank you so much for explaining that. We have a comment in the from our online audience who says it's refreshing to hear how Outreachy mentors put so much intention and care into mentoring the interns. Thank you for that comment as well. And for anybody looking at mentoring, just like our guest mentioned, I think the first thing, aside you having the knowledge that you want to share with others, it's to look at the project you're working on, to see that part of your project that needs improvements, maybe something you can do, but you don't really have the time to, but you understand it well enough to like explain it to other person, to explain it and guide them. Our guest mentioned that you can share resources with them, point them to like any YouTube video or any other resources that can be helpful in order for them to get it done. And I'm just going to say, in summary, the project you are going to decide that the Outreachy interns are going to work on should be well defined, self-contained, and uncontroversial, but it should be ideally useful. Like it should be something that will be included in your community project, and something that a project that will produce several deliverables during the internship period, so that your mentors can have projects like things to work on. Your interns rather can have things to work on while you are also guiding them. So thank you so much for that in-depth explanation, so that other mentors and other potential mentors can learn from. And yeah, so let's move over to Deb. Hi there. So I'm going to be asking you this question. Yes, I know you're a community coordinator, but maybe your mentors have also shared with you. Please feel free to add this. So tell us about the most challenging part of being a community coordinator, or maybe if your mentors has mentioned any to you, and how you are able to like help them or even help yourself to navigate the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most challenging sometimes is just literally the communication. So if the intern, like I mentioned earlier about, real world things happening, they don't have internet, they don't have power, that type of thing, or they got COVID, something like that, where it's just making sure that that communication happens between the mentor and the intern is super important. And I've seen cases where maybe that communication wasn't great, and there was a little bit of a language disparity where someone spoke French or German and someone else spoke, a different language, and they just weren't connecting. And so, the mentor reached out to me and said, "Hey, what do you think I can do here?" And so we talked about it and then had a meeting with everybody to literally say, okay, here's kind of where I see the problem. Here's where, we see these challenges happening. What can we do to fix that? And one of the things that came out of that particular one was to write things down, rather than verbally trying to express things, because of accents. And again, internet's not always great. And so you get the slowness and it's hard to tell sometimes what people are saying. Um, but we found out that for that particular mentor intern partnership was that literally it's like, okay, so we're just going to write stuff down. So we're going to use Telegram or IRC or whatever, chat program that they have to go back and forth to be like, okay, here's actually what I meant, type of thing. And that also then allows that if someone uses a word that maybe the other person doesn't understand, they can literally look it up online and just say, oh, I didn't understand this particular phrase or whatever. But that turned out to be fantastic. And once we got through that particular hurdle, it was great. The intern learned so much, and is going on and doing good things. I did want to take a quick moment though. Is Federico had talked about just taking this experience and using it, as a launching board, or just continuing your life, basically, work life. One of the things that I love that Outreachy does is that it gives prompts every 2 weeks to write a blog post. And so that's something that I've really tried to hone in on our interns, is that this blog post, you may be referring to it 5 years from now to talk about, hey, I did this thing in Figma, or I did this thing with Wiki Education. And so I've been working with this software or whatever it is, for this long. And people then can go back and look at those blog posts and say, oh yeah, okay, so I can read your whole timeline here, basically, the introduction. One of the prompts was everyone struggles. Absolutely, and that's one of those things where the interns can just be themselves. And it also helps the mentors to be like, okay, so now they're writing from the heart, basically. And do I need to change anything that I'm doing with the mentor, with the intern, speaking for the mentor side? And sometimes there's nothing to do other than, thumbs up, hand clap type of thing, because it's like they're working through some of those struggles. And with an internship, I think everyone struggles a little bit. But that's okay, is because you get through that. One of the things also with our mentors that we have, most of them, I'm just kind of looking at our mentor list over here. Everyone that we have this time has mentored before. And everyone that is a mentor has experience some way within the Media Wiki code. And so it's like, they've grown up, they've been working with this code base for quite some time. And so now they're giving back to say, okay, we want to take that next step now with this project that I've been working on for 5 years. Okay, so I'm going to bring in these interns and just be like, okay, cool. So let me actually show you the whole world of this particular project, and then go on from there. And then hopefully the intern will have a great experience and be like, okay, I want to work on this project now for the next 5 years and make it even better. So it's that cycle of you're an intern first, or you somehow got introduced to the projects that we have, and then you're like, oh, this is fantastic, this is great, I want to actually teach others. And that's when you then become the mentor to then continue that project on. Like the Wiki Education project, we have two actually projects this cycle for it. That's been around for quite some time at this point. And that's Wiki Education to help students and teachers, learn about Wikipedia, how to then use that in the classroom and that type of stuff. So it's really cool stuff that literally at any point in your life, you can go back and say, I did this thing. Here's my blog posts. Here's all my weekly updates. Here's what I did. Here's my check-ins. Here's my merges. And that's pretty powerful. I mean, there's things that I did 10 years ago and it's not on the internet. I can't point it to anybody to say, oh, look here, right? But that's what's great about this is you can go back and you can look at it. And people then love the fact that you worked for Wikimedia and you did things that it's open source. It's free for anyone to use. And it's really cool tech.
Awesome. Thank you so much for highlighting the step by step. Not only that, for also highlighting the Outreachy prompts. I think this is something the Outreachy organizers used to encourage like interns. Like this is like a pub, like a bank for your work, something you can always come back to. And I shared experience of one intern that joined my office who stated how she at the beginning of her internship was having challenge communicating. And just as you mentioned, the community coordinator, she had like a one-on-one conversation with the community coordinator, and they were able to like, I think, write things down, just like you mentioned. And we, at the end of the day, we noticed it was just communication issue, like the understanding that comes with the communication. And when they wrote it down, it was clearer, and they were able to like even support the intern better. So thank you so much for that. And from what you just explained, I want to ask you a question. What's like your proudest moment as a community coordinator? You have given us a lot of examples, a lot of insight into being a community coordinator, but tell us like what's that proudest moment that you can think of being an Outreachy community coordinator?
I think my proudest moment was the wrap up of round 28 just last year. And literally talking with all the interns to, because we've had 3 check-ins at this point, or that's our 3rd meeting, to talk about what they were going through. And, when we had those conversations, reading the updates, reading the blog posts, that type of thing, and then get to the end of the cycle. And they're all like so happy. They're like, this is cool. I've made it. And I learned so much. And to me, that makes it worthwhile, right? This is what we're here to do, is to literally help these interns and of course these mentors as well, but to do good things for themselves and for their career. And so just listening and seeing their faces at the end of our last round and just be like, this was great. I want to continue on. And then several of those interns are actually going to attend, future events with the foundation. So we have like our hackathon coming up. We have a couple of people from last cycle that are actually going to be there because they are continuing their work within the movement and they just want to be a part of it. And so I love the fact that they didn't just come here for 3 months just to, do some random thing and then go off and do something completely different. They're vested, they're interested, they want to continue and do more. And that's, I think, just it's the cherry on top. It's like, yes, this is what I'm here for.
Yes, even as the program organizers and the rest of the Outreachy program organizers, that is something that gives us joy, give us like build a momentum to keep going. Seeing our interns continue working with the community, the project they're working on is something that brings us a lot of joy. So it's not just for 3 months, contributing for 3 months. They just want to continue making that impact, adding that value. And I think it will be fair for me to throw that same question to Federico. So tell us in a summary way, what challenge you face as a mentor and how you're able to like navigate that challenge so that other mentors can learn from it. And tell us about like share with us your proudest moment being an outreach mentor.
Yeah, let me think. As Deb said, communication is sometimes definitely a challenge. I have some auditory processing difficulties myself, so sometimes it's very hard for me to understand what people are saying, and when their English is not very fluent, I have a really hard time. So what has worked very well for me is for myself to speak slower to my intern, and that kind of gives them a hint, or I can ask them, please, can you repeat that slower? And they learn how to communicate with each other, And writing, having everything in writing helps a lot. This time around, my intern and I have a shared document in GNOME has its own Etherpad instance, or no, it's not Etherpad, it's Headstock. So we have a Headstock. It's a shared document. We add to it like on this date, we talked about this. If I draw a diagram for my intern, I stick it there in document, and we write down the homework. There, like here's the code that you must implement, or here's the merge request that it's halfway done, so you have to finish it, or here's the issue that you're working on. And it's nice because we can refer back to that document and see explanations, diagrams, references to, things in GitLab that we already worked on. So everything is there. And we have both the shared document and an ongoing chat on Matrix, so you can scroll back there and look back at things. And also with respect to the communication, it has really helped for me this time around to stick to a schedule for talking to my intern via video call. So we talk 2 times a week on the same day at the same hour. And that works really well because then it gives a structure to my day because I'm a really disorganized person. And I hope it helps my intern to know that, at this time, I must have my, computer ready, the headphones, video, everything, So that has been really helpful. The tooling has sometimes been a challenge, but I do take time to help my interns. Everyone has trouble with Git, right? So I take my time to show my interns how to fix their Git issues if they need to, rewrite a commit or rebase a patch or something. I take my time to show them how to do that, teach them some tricks, and then it's helpful for them in the future. I don't just assume that they will deal with all the tooling themselves. One of the things we've done in GNOME very productively has been to try to make the developer experience work well for people. So for other projects in GNOME, which are a bit higher level than the one I'm working on with my intern, for example, if you're working on a GNOME application, not just a library, frequently you can just use GNOME Builder, which is the GNOME IDE, the Integrated Development Environment, and choose the application you want to work on, and it automatically downloads the code, all the dependencies, it compiles it for you, and it just works. So that's great for people who are newcomers into this thing, rather than having to set up your own development environment from scratch. So that has been working really well. About my proudest moment as a mentor, oh, I don't know. There's so many little things. You have no idea how much I enjoy looking at my interns' faces when they learn that the code that they just wrote a couple of weeks ago is now in production. It's out there in the world in a public release. Everyone will be using their code just like that. And it's like, holy shit, my name is in there in the release notes, and I can show it to people. I can say, look, I wrote this. The release notes for this very visible public project mention my name. It's so great. I love seeing them perceive that. And yeah, just basically knowing that people I've worked with have their work out there in the world and that it's being used. That's so great to see. That's just fantastic to see. And whenever I have had the chance to meet one of my interns in person in one of the GNOME conferences or in another conference, that's just great. I just love showing them, getting to know the other project members. They get talking. Sometimes they go off in their own direction, meeting new people, finding a job. So that's been great to see. So if anyone is sponsoring the GNOME Project or Outreachy, please give us lots of money. We need money to send people to conferences, to sponsor them. So please donate, give us lots of money. It's being put to good use, you know.
Thank you.
By the way, since Deb from Wikimedia is here, in the project I'm working on right now, LibreSVG, it's an SVG renderer. Wikipedia, the Wikipedia infrastructure for SVG diagrams in the Wikipedia actually uses LibreSVG to render that for low-end web browsers. So we have had a very good relationship with people from Wikimedia, where they tell us, hey, these diagrams are not rendering. Can you please fix the bugs? Or these features, people would like to use them for their diagrams, but they don't work yet, or they don't work well. So that's been a good relationship with Wikimedia. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Federico. I think you've not only answered my question, but even moved into my next question. And I really love the way you also mentioned how our mentors and community coordinator is supporting interns, especially knowing fully well that our interns are from different parts of the world. Some do not have their first language being English. Anna, for example, Anna is one of the Outreachy organizers right now, and they also were an Outreachy intern some times ago. Their first language is not English, it's Portuguese. And when they joined the Outreachy internship, that was like their first fear. But they have given a lot of success story regarding that, saying their mentor was really kind with them. Their mentor would slow down, ask them to repeat things, document things, just like you mentioned. Thank you so much. And also you highlighted how community projects are collaborating. You just like gave an example of how GNOME is collaborating with Wikimedia. Thank you so much for that. So we have like 2 questions. I know we have like limited time, and I don't want to delay our guests too much. And I still have 2 more questions. So I'm just going to highlight the questions we have from the audience. Then anybody can take it. Deb can take it, or Federico can take it. So the first question we have is, what advice do you have for new open source projects who want to participate in Outreachy? So you can answer from your own perspective as a mentor or as a community coordinator. Anybody can go first.
I can go ahead and jump in real quick. So when this particular asked about the open source project, so we as Wikimedia, at least, we concentrate mostly on things that affect our, our ecosystem. So like if you know anything about quick statements, if you're interested in wiki education, if you have different things where you do a lot of accessibility type work. Someone asked earlier, I think, asking about design. That's actually a design project that we're working on right now. If you knew Codex, if you've used PenPot before or Figma, stuff like that. If you've worked with Wiktionary and using the scribe data that's behind it, there's all sorts of projects that are on there. What it really helps is that you have experience already doing that thing. So, and you want to make it better. You want to take it to the next step, next level, fix bugs, whatever it might be. But having that experience already. So again, like I threw out a bunch of different words in here, but if you're already a contributor or at least been looking at it, you understand the code, you understand what it's trying to do, just try. There's all sorts of different avenues for beginners to come into Wikimedia, into the code base, and to be like, hey, I want to go ahead and do this. One of the things we have in Fabricator, which is spelled with a PH, Fabricator, is we have tags on tasks that are good for newcomers or good for new people. Or you can go ahead and look at those and be like, oh, I can do this, and so log in there, see, what some of those tasks are. If they sound interesting, reach out on that ticket to be like, hey, I want to go ahead and help out here. How do I start? Or, where's the code base or whatever it is that you have a question about. But you can literally just jump in with Wikimedia type stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering the question. And I hope the person that asked the question is able to get one or two things from the insights shared. So I just want to address the fact that some of the questions we have, some other questions are in the chat, but it's for applicants. I've shared the documentation to answer your question in the chat. Please just go through the chat, you'll see. And for those that have not shared, please go to the Outreachy website. There is a detailed documentation that answers all the questions you're asking. There's a question for Federico, and I'm just going to read this out. So this is outside of Outreachy. They're asking if GNOME have room for non-code contributor who would like to be part of the project generally.
Yeah, fortunately, the project is big enough these days that we have a lot of possible avenues for contribution. There's translations, of course. If you want to help translate GNOME to your own language, that's reasonably easy to do. There's a whole infrastructure for doing that. People can try to get into the graphic design or the user experience design team if you are good with, drawing assets for programs, icons, diagrams, things like that. For documentation, you can do that. If you know about user interface design or user experience design, you can help along with that. We had a couple of internships in years back where the interns did usability tests for GNOME. And those were great. Jim Hall has been our mentor for UX researchers or for people doing user experience usability tests. So they set up a number of tasks for the testers to try to accomplish with the software. And they watch how people try to do the tasks. So one of them might be, find this file in your hard drive and move it to another place, or open your text editor and modify this file to do things. And it's up to them to see how real users try to accomplish those tasks, and they take notes on what they do. So there's that for doing UX research. What have I gone through? Translations, UX, graphic design. for people who know about DevOps or system administration kind of things, we have a lot of tasks that could be done there. Our sysadmins are, of course, always overworked, so help is much appreciated there. So if you like messing around with cloud stuff and containers and site reliability, there's a lot of work you can do in GNOME. We even put out a job call for someone to run the FlatHub infrastructure. FlatHub is where you download the Flatpak application, so we need someone to run that show. You can, of course, write code for the project. You can even do just outreach, getting into the community, helping promote the project. There we have for example, we have a travel committee. So the travel committee is people who don't really write code, but they just help people who want to go to GNOME conferences make their travel funding applications. They help them know how to look for cheap flights, things like that, helping them find accommodation or book accommodation with the joint with the shared accommodation we often book for conferences, things like that. We have an engagement committee who takes care of just promoting GNOME on just on social media and in the internet in general. We need people who are willing to be moderators in the various chats or the discourse forums for GNOME. There's lots of ways. If you want to get into the project, there you can do a lot of things. So just feel free to come in and ask. You can mail me, message me on Mastodon, go into the GNOME matrix rooms and just ask there.
Okay, thank you so much, and I hope that answers your question.
There's a look around for the GNOME handbook. Just type GNOME handbook in a search engine, and that tells you all the information you need to know to learn how to get into the project.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And not just GNOME projects, other projects as well. You can check the Outreachy projects, past projects. Other projects have non-code contributions that you can work on. So please look out for that. And we are wrapping up. Our time is fast spent. We really appreciate our guests. This is like one of the best mentors coffee chats that I've had on this channel. Thank you so much. It's really detailed, and it's like I just be asking all my questions. Okay, so I'm going to drop the link to the page of the handbook that Federico mentioned in the public chat. While at that, I just have one final question, and we're going to wrap up this chat for our two guests. But before I ask the question, please note that the Outreachy internship application for the main cohort is going to start soon. I've seen a lot of questions about that, so it's going to start soon. You can subscribe to the announcement mailing list so that once we start it, or once the application starts, you'll be notified via email. You follow us on all our social media platforms: Twitter, that's X, Mastodon, LinkedIn, and even on YouTube. Please follow on these channels because we are definitely going to announce when the application starts for both our mentoring communities and also for applicants. The application starts very soon. To wrap the chat up, please tell us how Outreachy has impacted your community growth in terms of give us key improvements on your project that you just want to highlight to the whole world. We want to spotlight your project. So let's spotlight the project from the aspect of Outreachy being a great impact into that growth. So we'll start with Deb, and we'll just use that to wrap up. Then Federico can take over.
I don't know of any particular projects exactly that people have worked on, but I guess one of the success stories that I like to talk about is the fact that when some of the folks go through the internship, they continue to write code for that particular project when as they're moving forward and in their career, but then they still stay attached to the project. And then when I don't know if this actually going to answer your question or not, but it's more of, we have success stories of people who really like working on the projects, working on the code base, and then we can hire them in as people to actually continue on working on that code base and have a full-time job doing it. And so to me, it's just kind of like one of those things where this is kind of the goal, right? Is that you learn these new techniques, you learn how to communicate well with your mentor, you learn how to be part of this thing that's much bigger than you, that's open sourced, it's free for anyone to use. And then you go on and actually have a career in it. So I don't think that really answers the question, but hopefully it'll be enough.
Yes, you did. Thank you. And it shows that it goes beyond even the project. You as an applicant as a participant, have a lot to benefit from being part of Outreachy. Thank you so much for highlighting those other parts that even goes beyond the project. Federico, can you please also summarize like some key growths that participating in Outreachy has helped your community in?
Yeah. Wow, there have been so many. I know people from Outreachy have done user interface testing. They have done documentation. There's been, code projects, but I don't remember them except for the ones I have mentored myself. As I mentioned before, one of my Outreachy interns implemented a bunch of features from the SVG2 and CSS3 specifications for LibreSVG. Another one did the performance tracking infrastructure for the library because we want to keep it fast. I had an intern. It was not for Outreach. It was for the Google Summer of Code, who did back when we were porting LibreSVG from C to Rust, he did the image processing filters. So he was a student and he had all the computer graphics algorithms very fresh in his head. So he was a perfect candidate for that. So taking the SVG image processing filters and converting them from C to Rust and re-implementing some of them. That was nice. I know people have worked on GNOME Builder, the GNOME IDE. Last year, I co-mentored someone for the GNOME Crosswords application for porting the backend library from C to Rust. People have worked on GNOME Shell, the different GNOME applications, the file manager. I don't know, there have been so many.
Thank you. I know. Thank you so much for that as well. Thank you so much. I can see Deb also shared like the link to the current Outreachy internship project. That's for Wikimedia. Okay, I'm also going to drop that in the chat. And that is the end of today's chat. Thank you so much, everyone that joined online. Thank you so much for engaging. I see your chat. I even see we have someone who is there answering other people's questions. That shows how impactful the program has been and how our documentation or the experience has been for everyone. Thank you so much. And for our guests, thank you so much for taking our time. I know you are all busy, but thank you so much for taking our time to share insights into your experience, share with us what it's like to be a coordinator and to be a mentor. Thank you so much. We don't take this for granted. And for anyone who is going to be watching this video later, if you have any question, you can also connect with our guests. Their details, their contacts, we have that in the description of this video. If you have any question about the Outreachy mentorship or mentoring community application, please send us email at organizers@outreachy.org. And if you have any question about application, that's interns application, right? Send it to applicant_help@outreachy.org. We're going to have another chat with our mentor and also a community coordinator on the 5th of February. Please watch out for that as well. Thank you so much, Deb. Thank you so much, Federico, once again. It's so nice to have you here, and we hope we'll be able to see you another time. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for inviting me. Bye-bye.